Hey everyone! Do you know when and how to scale up your team to support your growing business? Today I have a special guest. Her name is Ashlee Berghoff. She is the founder of A Squared Online. She and her team has been helping many creative solopreneurs turn into CEO of their companies. And she helped them through system, how to hire, as well as how to build structure in their organization to scale up. So Ashlee, tell us a little bit more about your background and how did you get started with A Square Online?
Sure. So I came from the corporate space. My last corporate job was in a large financial services consulting firm. And
Ah,
I was there for a few years doing operations and project management work and was in the evening studying for my MBA and reached this point right towards the end where I realized I was miserable in my work. I wasn't really
oh,
excited about the traditional MBA jobs that many of my cohort mates were going for. And I wanted to have the ability to build something that was mine and to have flexibility and control over how I worked when I worked as our family grew. So I decided to take a shot at working for myself. I started out essentially as a souped up virtual assistant. I called myself an independent business manager, and I
ah,
helped small business owners just run their businesses, pulled things out of their heads and make them happen. Over time, I began to really specialize in helping entrepreneurs make that transition from working for themselves, kind of reinventing the wheel, throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck, to having the structure and the team of a really solid, sustainable business that gave them the lifestyle they started their business to have. So now we
cool.
focus on helping our clients really build the structure they need to bring on their first team members and have a really incredible working relationship together so they can start growing without having to throw more hours at their business and start actually building some freedom into their lifestyle.
Oh, I love that. Freedom lifestyle is totally my mission. So I'm very curious now to ask a lot more questions. Um, so tell me about how long have A Square Online been around?
3 years, almost
3 years.
exactly. Our
And
anniversary was
how did
October
you
7th.
get your first few clients? Like who are they and what do they do and how you help them? Just give us like an example or two.
Yeah. So my very first clients came from
Mhm.
Facebook, believe it or not. I was in a
Oh wow.
Facebook group with other entrepreneurs. People would post, I need help with X, Y, and Z. And I just raise my hand, say, hey, I can help with that. Let's talk. So that's where my first few clients came from. A lot of my next batch of clients came from referrals from that first group. And
Oh
then
wow.
just recently, I've started to be able to build a network beyond that through, more connections and publicity opportunities and things like that. But it's all been very, very
Mhm.
organic.
Gotcha. And are your clients like they're more like product kind of clients, like they create their products, or they're more like service business?
Exclusively service businesses so far.
Oh,
So
really?
working a lot with copywriters, coaches, graphics designers, web designers, people who provide services online for the most part. I think scaling a service business is a whole different beast than a product business. And
I was
so,
just about to say that. Like,
yeah.
yeah, service is a tough one because I'm in
Mhm.
one too. You know, we have our own studio, Blooming Aces, right? And then yeah, scaling service really tricky. So this is really interesting for me to dive in with you. So a lot of like people like me, for example, like as an entrepreneur, we started as a solopreneur, right?
Mhm.
And we started building our rapport, and then at some point we want to scale up. And so based on your experience seeing this, what is like the number one or two things that you feel that they need to shift, in order to be able to scale in the service business?
That's a great question. So, one of the things I talk with my clients a lot about is kind of a couple of mindset shifts. One being
Mm.
learning to see their own time as not free. There tends to be, I think, this kind of challenge that people have when they hire that first person where they're like, why would I pay someone else money to do this when I could do it myself for free? And
Oh yeah.
so we'll do the math with our clients right there at the beginning to say, here's how much money you're making right now. Here's how many hours you're working. This is your effective hourly rate. Let's say it's $50. would you pay someone else $50 to do this work? And if the answer is no, then you should not be doing this work, because essentially you're paying yourself $50 an hour to do it, right?
Yeah.
And shifting that mindset has been really helpful for some of my clients to realize, like, oh, I'm not paying money when I could do this for free. I'm actually paying myself too much to do this work. So that's been a
Yes.
huge, huge part of it.
That is a very good one. Very good one. I noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs, like I that was my mistake too before. It's like to think like my time is free, and actually you're supposed to be the CEO, and
yeah,
you are paying a lot more.
Yeah, it's like you're actually a quite expensive resource in your business. And so when you see it that way, it's like, oh, okay, actually paying someone else $20 an hour.
How hard was it? How hard was it to shift that mindset, by the way? Was it pretty easy or hard?
That's one of those, I think it's an ongoing process for some people, but I think having that number in their head is really helpful. So we'll do that exercise with people to say, this is your effective hourly rate. That makes it really easy if they just have a piece of paper next to them over the course of a week to say, like, is this a $50 an hour task? No, write it down, write it down, write it down. And by the end of the week, they realize, like, oh, there are actually quite a few things that I'm doing right now that I probably shouldn't be doing anymore. And that can start the process of shifting. It's still hard. It's hard to bring on that first person and to trust someone else with pieces of your business and all those things. But it starts moving people in the right direction.
Gotcha. And how long normally it take for like someone, like when a solopreneur started their business, like starting like when they're working with you, right? And they come to you and then you try to shift their mindset. And how long did it take them from like being a solopreneur into hiring their first team member in general, like based on what you can see?
That's a great question. I think it depends on quite a few factors. So we've worked with people before where they have a relatively clear picture of how they're serving their clients. They're relatively consistent from time to time in how they're doing that, what kind of content they're putting out, how they're putting that content out. For those guys, we can get them, within 6 weeks working with a great VA. If someone's in a place where they're reinventing the wheel with every new client, they're struggling to figure out what they want to be working on, maybe they're juggling a lot of different projects at the same time and all of that, we'll spend more time with them, getting to them to a place in their business where they have some consistency to be able to bring someone on. Because one of the other things I talk to people about, because they'll get really busy and just say, VA can fix this, right? is to say, what a VA basically does is they pour gasoline on whatever you have in your business today. So if your business is doing really, it's running smoothly, but you're kind of capped because you don't have enough hours and capacity yourself, a VA is going to really add those hours and help you move forward quickly. But if your business is chaotic today, a VA is going to just add more chaos. They're not going to solve the chaos. And so we help people get to a point where some things are running that their VA can then help them do.
So you have to be specific on the assignment for the VA. Is that right?
Yeah, because if you're doing things differently every time, it's going to be really hard for a VA to help you do that. Right.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned a couple of times about VA. Now, if someone like starting their business and they're like by themselves, and then what is the process, like the best process to kind of bring on that first VA? Like, what is the common mistakes and what is the no in hiring one?
Yeah. I mean, I think we pointed out a couple mistakes already, right? One being hoping a VA will fix all your problems if you don't have some structure in your business. So usually we'll talk to people first and say, hey, let's get some systems in place first, clear customer experience. Let's look for areas where maybe you can get a machine to do this instead of another human, because that's going to always be cheaper, right? So can we automate? Can we streamline? Can we cut some things where you're not having to pay someone else to do something that shouldn't be happening in the first place? So we look at the systems first. Then the next step is to kind of, for the business owner, talk through what it looks like to be a leader and a boss in their business. Because for a lot of them, they might have overseen someone in a previous corporate job, but it might be their first time being the end all be all supervisor for another person, where they're hiring, retaining, firing that person. They're taking that entire relationship on and kind of preparing them for, Here's how you set clear expectations. Here's how you share feedback. Recognize that you're hiring someone to support you, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to be clear, to help them help you, right? They're going to come to you and say, how can I help you? And you need to be ready to answer that question, right?
So
So
it's
we work on
almost like
that.
training too, a little bit of a leadership training there.
Yeah,
involved.
yeah. At the very least, at a basic level, like let's kind of start that process for you. And then after that, we can start looking for a virtual assistant and talking through the best way to pay that person and to set up the relationship for success. Another mistake or roadblock that people run into is they might have a bit of a champagne taste on a beer budget, right? Of wanting a unicorn, hugely experienced virtual assistant at their beck and call for $500 a month. It's not going to happen. You can find a good VA for $500 a month, but you're going to need to give in some other areas, provide extra flexibility, provide some extra consistency, some of those other things, right? If someone's waiting for your call so they can jump on a task and you're paying them not enough, that's just not going to work for either one of you. So we kind of look at all of the factors that go into a fair arrangement that's going to work well for both of you based on your budget, based on the experience that you need, all those things. So that's set up effectively. And then we work, with our clients to actually screen people, hire people, onboard them, train them, set up their communication rhythm so they have a good working relationship. And then once everything's rolling, we can exit stage left and they'll be good to go.
Gotcha. So, for you mentioned about system, earlier, like you have to put the system in place before you hire the VA. What do you mean by the system?
Yeah, so this can depend on what each client needs, but one thing that we found to be a good starting place for most clients is to have a good customer experience process. So if you think about, a restaurant, a really good restaurant, right? They're not just providing good food, right?
Right.
You also walk in, you have this consistent experience every time you go. The wait staff is amazing. The ambiance, the music, the smells, the decorations, they all work together to give you this consistent experience. And if you go back next week, it's going to be the same, right? Every business should be similar in that way, where every new client comes in, they have a process they're walking them through. It's clear, they know what they're doing, how they're doing it. Once you have that figured out, it becomes a lot easier to get help doing that, right? Because then you can tell someone, hey, we have a new client coming in, please onboard them. And they can say, boom, 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 this is how we do that, right? This is the answer to how we onboard somebody. Or, hey, please get feedback and testimonials from them. They know what questions to ask. They know where to gather that information, how to store that information. So you have some processes and systems in place to help your VA help you. Another huge one that we see that will help our clients add some structure around is content repurposing. A lot of our clients want help with that. So if you set up a system where you can say, hey, I recorded a video, I've dropped it here. You want your VA to say, got it. I know exactly what to do from here. I know which pieces of content you want this turned into. I know where to put them. I know how you want that done. And so once that's structured, you can have a VA help you do that.
Awesome. That's so cool. I mean, I start falling into place in my mind. How you organize this is great. And so like, if you want to have, like, let's say you have the system in place, you figure it out, right? And then the next step is hiring the VA. What is the budget like people should start thinking about, like starting point, like, or range that they need to prepare to have a good, decent VA? Maybe like not the top, but like starting point.
That's a great question. And it's a tough one to answer because so many factors play in. I would say in general, you'd want to pay at least, depending on how the relationship works, at the very least $350 a month. It could go all the way up to $2,000 a month.
Okay.
Right. So the range is huge depending on, do you need this person 20 hours a week or 5 hours a week? Do you need someone who can turn around something quickly, or are you able to send something to someone that they have an entire week to finish for you? Do you need someone who's really experienced, or are you willing to train and mentor someone who's new? So that's where we talk to people about kind of all the levers you can pull. Because if you say need 10 hours a week worth of work, and you can commit to that consistently, so you can say, all right, I'm going to pay you this many dollars a month. We're not going hourly. It's going to be consistent month to month. I'm going to give you a lot of flexibility. There's going to be some consistency around the work you're doing. That can bring that hourly rate down a little bit, in the sense of a fair relationship. What I always kind of warn my clients against is saying, you can find a good VA in the United States for $25 an hour if you have some of those things in place, the consistency, the flexibility, all of that. If you want to pay someone $25 an hour and have them be working for you 20 hours one week and 2 hours the next, and pay them hourly based on what you're sending them, and you need stuff same day and all of that, like the numbers stop working for your VA at that point, because then their revenue is going to be very inconsistent. They're going to have some months where they're really, really busy and some months where they're not getting any work. And all of a sudden that stops working. Right. And
so
I think that's,
you mean it's better to have a consistent set time with your VA so they have their kind of flow. Same thing with yours, is that right?
Right. Exactly. If you can say, hey, every Tuesday I need you to spend 2 hours doing this for me, that's going to be a lot easier for them to make work than randomly getting an email at 3 p.m. on a Thursday saying, hey, can you get this back to me today? If they have 10 clients doing that, they're going to be stressed out. They're going to start dropping the ball. And that's where you see situations where otherwise really good VAs start dropping the ball because they have to take on 10 clients to make the numbers work at those rates. But then if all of their clients are doing this to them, they're not going to be able to keep up effectively. Right. When I started out as a virtual assistant. I charged $35 an hour, which is kind of the high end of the VA rate scale in the United States. But even then, when I did the math, kind of after months of doing this, I was making less than minimum wage in terms of effective hourly rate. And it was not great as someone who just finished a very expensive graduate degree to realize that I would get a raise by working at McDonald's, right? So the numbers don't work if you want that kind of just constant access to this person, really variable at that kind of mid-range hourly rate. But if you can say, you know what, I think I have 10 hours of work to do, so I'm going to pay you $1,000 a month. I'm going to give you 3, 4, 5 days to complete the tasks that I send to you. All of a sudden, that can be a great gig for someone who needs to work part-time. Maybe they have kids at home, or for other reasons, they just need really flexible part-time work. It's consistent. They can count on it. They're working 10 hours a week. They're taking home $1,000 a month. All of a sudden that works for them. Right. So that's
like
where
a motivator, for them to work with you more.
Yeah. And so you can kind of build some of that structure in to make it work for them, and to kind of recognize that, having someone available same day, that's value you pay for. Having someone with a lot of experience, that's value you pay for. Having some lower risk because you're going through an agency who can immediately replace a VA if something happens, that's value you pay for. All of those things play in addition to the hourly rate, right? So that's where you see this massive variation. And I think why so many people are so confused. It's like, I could get, a VA overseas for $15 an hour, but this VA over here is charging $40 an hour. And this person over here only does like monthly packages. Like, what the heck do I do? How does this work? And it's a little bit of the Wild West, but that's where I think you can kind of work together to find a package of value that works really well for both of you.
So do you, like, when you work, like, based on the service business clients that you've been helping, right? What type of like VA package that you normally think works, and also how long will it take from the time you bring in the VA, all the way to like seeing the return, I'm saying, kind of like the growth, because like eventually when you're adding that extra cost, which is not really extra cost because you're saving yourself from paying too much of your own time,
right?
But it's a mindset shift right there. But what I'm saying is like by the time like, so the owners, the solopreneur becoming, like realizing that, oh my gosh, there is a value in hiring the good VA, what I'm saying? So what would you say about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's the two parts, right? One being a return in saved time, and the other being a return in actual increased money. So if you have really solid systems in place, the saved time you could see very, very quickly within a couple of weeks, right? You might have a little extra time at the beginning for training, for providing some initial feedback, things like that. If you're still in the place of kind of figuring out how you want things to work and things like that, or you're giving more complex projects to someone where it might take them a couple tries to get it right, you might see some extra work in the beginning just to kind of get them to a place where things are working well. But if things are really well documented, really clear, really consistent, and you're immediately offloading those things, it can be an almost immediate time saving for the business owner. And it just kind of depends on the experience of your virtual assistant a little bit too, right? If you have a slightly more experienced one, they might be able to get in there on day one and save your bacon. Someone else might need a little more training.
Do you have a process of like interview questions that like is very key normally for people, to like make sure that they avoid that bunch of mistakes, bunch of mistakes, or is that something that you guys help your clients with, sorting them up?
Yeah. So one question that we always ask potential VAs that we talk to is kind of really deep diving into their availability and what that really looks like on a day-to-day basis. So, if they have a full-time job and they're doing this as a side hustle, or they already have 5 other clients or things like that, we really want to understand like, what does your availability truly look like? And like getting some hard data on that a little bit, because everyone will say, oh yeah, I can totally do it. And then when you get in, it's like, no, you can't though. Like this is maybe being a little optimistic. And so we really want to get hard data on like, all right, how many hours do you work every day? And when are those hours? And how many hours are you spending on client work right now? And how much availability do you truly have? So that's a good place to really set fair expectations right off the bat as well. Where, if you recognize someone has relatively limited availability, that doesn't mean they're not the right fit. It just might mean that you have to know that going in, right?
Yeah, allowing more time probably. Yeah, to give them time to work on.
Yeah, so that's a big one. We also often use test projects. So
I was going to ask about that. You just read my mind right there. I was just going to ask you, do you give test projects?
Yeah, because that can give you sometimes the best picture of what's going on. So even before someone applies, we have instructions in our job descriptions of something they need to do. And it's not something crazy. It's just like, hey, make sure you mention this in your cover letter or say this in your subject line. If they fail to follow those instructions, we don't consider them. Because if you can't follow detailed instructions in applying for a job, you're probably not going to start later. That's the first hurdle. And then the second one might be, all right, we're going to have you repurpose some content, or we're going to have you do a transcription job for us or something like that, where we can see, can you follow something all the way through? Can you follow instructions? Can you provide good quality work? Do you communicate well? And that's where if you start finding some, oh, I didn't do it because you didn't give me this, some excuses or some things, or they get it late or whatever, that can start to pull those pieces out a little bit. So we do
these test projects like normally something that's like not crucial, or is it something crucial, or like how many test projects you give them? And is it a variety of things?
Yeah, we usually start with one. Just kind of one simple test project. And it's definitely would never be anything that's like going out publicly for the business or client facing or anything like that, because we're still testing. But it could be, yeah, like here, I'm going to give you a video. I need you to turn this into a social media post, right? That
I
could
see.
be an example of one. They send back the social media post. We can kind of see how they handled that task.
Let me ask you this. Let's just say if they fail, like, do you pay them? If they fail the test project, do you pay them or do you not pay them? Just curious.
Not usually, but we purposely make them not huge time sucks, right? So we're not going to ask someone as part of a test project to like watch a 2-hour training and make it into a transcription, right? It's way too big. But if it's something they can do in 20
less than
minutes,
an hour?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 20, 30 minutes maybe, as part of the interview process, that can be just a great way to test out their work without asking for a huge time commitment from them. I have paid for test projects for my own hiring in the past, just because I want to kind of, I don't know, like we're taking the stand on, right, making sure people are paid fairly and stuff like that. So we want to try to walk.
I completely with you on that one. I always pay people for test project, and hopefully they succeed, right? So like you said, they're not time suck, and it's a small investment that I'm willing to make for building a team for sure.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, because it could be as simple as like, hey, it's going to take 30 minutes. I'll pay you $10. You have 3 finalists. It's a very cheap way to do it, but they're still getting compensated in some way for their time. So there's definitely, there's a lot of room for that. And especially if it's a bigger test project, I think paying is wise.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you so much. This is like great tips for hiring VA. This is new to me too, by the way.
Good. I'm glad it's helpful.
Yeah, I have team members, but it's kind of there's a little bit of that close relation on like how to handle this. So that's great tips for a lot of people that never have to think about these things, And I want to actually ask you something kind of fun, because like when the solopreneurs start hiring their VA and it's working out, now they have extra space. What would you recommend them to spend time most on when they start having more space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it depends on what I'd call the core vital need of the business. So I'm certified in a methodology called Fix This Next, which is all about kind of identifying the one thing in your business that is the most vital. So for example, if you're not bringing in enough sales, that's your core vital need. If you're bringing in a lot of sales, but they're not very profitable, profit's your core vital need, right? If you have your sales and profit locked in, but things are a little disorganized, systems are your vital need, right? So depending on what...
Let me recap that real quick. Okay, just in case we didn't catch that. So Fix It Next, right? That's the name of the methodology that Fix This Next. Yeah, and then you mentioned, I think you went in the order. I can tell you're very systematic. Number one, you said sales first, right? Sales and marketing first. And then the second thing was profit, you said? And then the last thing was what? The third one. Order. Yeah. Total makes sense.
Yeah. There's 5. So there's sales, profit, order, impact, and legacy. So if someone's really, they are locked in.
The fourth one, I missed the fourth one. The fourth one was impact.
So that's where you start looking at kind of a broader impact on your industry, things like that. That starts landing in that fourth one. And legacy is where you're thinking about, how do I replace myself as the leader of this business? People who are considering an exit start talking about the legacy of the business, right? But most people land in the first 3, right? So, if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what, we need more sales, then you bring in somebody who's helping you clear off some of that administrative stuff on your plate. That extra time goes to sales, right? And then that's where you can start seeing that ROI happening, like we were talking about before, of, okay, I used to be spending time building my own landing pages and loading stuff into my email marketing tool. Now I'm not doing that anymore. That time's now going directly into revenue generating activities for the business, right?
Nice.
So that's where you can really start to see that money you're investing turn back around into more revenue for the business, because you have space for more clients and you have space for more.
Do you think that the owners, like now that they have more time to build that top line, right? The sales, do you think it's better for them to go out and do their own sales or hire a salesperson? What do you say about that?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. I'm not sure.
Does it depend on the person? Maybe? Is it depend on the person.
Yeah, I think it can depend. I think, for us, kind of to give a trajectory of our business, my first hire was a VA. My second major hire was someone to help me with client delivery, and now she leads an entire service line for our business.
Oh,
And
wow.
our third hire will be someone who helps us generate leads. Yeah.
I see.
So yeah, I think it depends on the person and where they're landing and where their needs are. So for us,
Yeah.
because our core vital need is sales, we're
Yeah.
investing for a salesperson because we already have a virtual assistant. And we already have
Awesome.
someone helping expand our client capacity as well, because that was a big bottleneck for us for a while.
Yes. All right. So this is great tips. I mean, I think a lot of our audience will be learning a lot from you. And you also wrote a book, right? You
Yeah.
wrote a book and it's launching. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So through this whole process of working with my clients to help them and make this transition from a one-person show to a team to leveraging and growing, I kind of discovered that many of my clients struggle with shiny object syndrome and have a lot of new ideas and a lot of projects that they start that they struggle to finish, and a lot of projects that they're trying to do at the same time. And so a lot of what we work with them on is how to really take focused action and see their projects all the way through to the finish line. So that's what my book is about. It's about how you can take your best ideas, what we call your eureka moments, your light bulb moments, the things that blow your mind, this is going to be the thing, your best ideas, and actually turn them into reality. So the book's title is Eureka Results: How Entrepreneurs Can Turn Their Best Ideas into Reality. So we talk about kind of the marathon that is turning your ideas into reality and how you can leverage systems to get there and why systems are so powerful. So that's what it's about.
Very cool.
Coming out in April. Really excited.
So April, Eureka Results. And where is this going to be sold?
Everywhere. All major retailers and Amazon, of course. We'll have a website.
Do you work with the publisher for that?
Yes. It's coming through New Degree Publishing.
What was it?
So New Degree Publishing. It's kind of a hybrid publisher. It's, I'm really excited about it. I just finished the first draft manuscript a couple of weeks ago, turned that into the publisher, and recorded the promo video. So I will be doing kind of a pre-sale campaign over the next few weeks to kind of build our launch team. And then,
very excited to check that out. It's awesome. So congratulations for finishing the first draft of the manuscript.
It was a haul. 50,000 words.
How long did it take you to write the book?
I started the book program I went through in June.
Okay.
So it was June through the end of October was the book process. And then now we're going into promotions and editing. So it will be the fourth draft that actually gets published. So I'm through one of four, go through a couple rounds of revisions.
So awesome. That's very exciting. So thank you for sharing that. And also, you mentioned, I think we talk about, I think you have this free gift for our audience that I would like you to talk about as well. What have you prepared for our audience?
Yeah. So we have a free audio training. It's called Knock Out Your To-Do List Every Day. And it's just a 30-minute kind of audio style training, talking you through the system that I follow to have that sense of momentum every single day and to feel progress, feel like you're actually knocking out your to-do list every single day. So you can download that at our website. It's
I'll provide the link I will provide the link I think you gave it to me. So we'll put the link down at the, our bio or our YouTube description here. And and then we'll go directly to your site. And perfect. So if you have one message or one advice to give to our audience who are creative solopreneurs, what would that message be?
I would say, if you find yourself feeling like you're behind, like you're drowning, like you're not productive or organized, however you're defining those things, know that you are not alone and that you've got this, you can do this. I think a lot of people feel like they're the only ones out there who are feeling that way, and you are not at all. So
gotcha. Thank you for that message. And one last question. It's in your business, like you're also started as like, creative solopreneur. Now you grew your business and you're doing really well. You have few exciting projects coming up and launching soon. So based on your experience, going through some mistakes of your own, what are like the top 3 things that you learn for us to avoid in the building your business? Or 2, or like top 1 or 2, whatever you can.
That's a great question. Hiring someone without checking references. Made that mistake this year. You'd think that I would know better, and I do, but I was just like, she's great, it'll be fine. Checking references.
Okay.
Let me think. I think another mistake to avoid, and this gets into kind of the mindset side, is not taking regular time to really work through where your head's at, where your mind's at, and just trying to push through. That's something that
like
I've
slowing down. Like you're saying, like slow down and think through where you are.
I have a tendency to just be like, oh, I'm miserable or whatever. I'm just going to keep trying to push through. I think we have that idea as entrepreneurs that it's, just like toughen up, move forward, just make it happen. And sometimes that's true. But then other times there's room to pause and say, all right, what's going on here? How can I work through where my mindset's at and take time to invest in?
Yeah. You think that COVID helps? COVID helped people slow down?
I think it's helped a lot of people. Because it's just cleared our calendars, I don't know about you, but as an online business owner, I was like, it works just as much, but just without childcare for the first couple of months of COVID. So it definitely did not move me in the direction of slowing down. But I think for a lot of people, it became that
grow more.
Sure. Think more deeply.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and the valuable methods that you do, and sharing about some examples that a lot of people should know and then should be thinking about doing. So this is very valuable. Really appreciate your time and coming in as our guest, Ashlee. Hopefully everything is going well with your book launch and your business building, and I know you're scaling up also continuously with your clients, and really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you, Erna. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. So hopefully see you again some other time, maybe it's with another projects in the future podcasts. And so we're gonna end our podcast now, and I wish you all the best, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Erna.
All right, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this episode with Ashlee Berghoff and learn a few things to apply in your business. Please hit like and comment below and share with us what is the top 1 thing that you will apply immediately in your business to scale up. Now, if you know anyone who are growing their business and need to scale up, please share these videos to help them out as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to get in touch with Ashlee, you can go to www.asquareonline.com or on her Instagram, asquareonline. Remember to check out her book in April 2021 called Eureka Results. That is going to be published everywhere by New Degree Publisher. I also left you a link below for her free 30 minutes audio training to help you with your day-to-day task. Now, stay tuned for our next episode, and please subscribe this channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you again for watching, and stay well, and hope everybody is doing great in their business. I'll see you next time.